All right. Good evening, everyone. What day is it? Friday? TGIF again. Welcome to our reading of one of my favorite classic comedies, Night at the Opera, starring the amazing Marx Brothers. We have a fabulous cast here tonight. To my left, we have Travis, of course, playing a whole bunch of people, specifically Riccardo Baroni. There's a lot of Italian names in this movie. He's Riccardo, and he's also the captain of the ship, of course. We have Kate Cassidy, of course, doing scene description. She's the best in the biz, so I had to have her doing my scene description.
Thanks, man.
Of course, yeah. We have Jack, of course, playing a bunch of people, including Arturo Guili, who in the movie is Herman Gottlieb, and at some point in the script he turns into Herman Gottlieb. So be ready for that, Jack. I don't know what happened. I guess they were going through rewrites, change the name up. Jeremy, of course, is going to be playing Harpo tonight, and he looks amazing. As much, but as in addition to a lot of other people, I want to hear Jeremy's beautiful voice tonight as well. We have, of course, Anne looking very lovely, playing Mrs. Claypool, played by the great Margaret Dumont in the movie, the perfect foil for the Marx Brothers. We have Karina, of course, playing Rosa Castaldi. Luckily, in this script, I'm not going to make Travis and Karina sing opera. The opera's not actually in the script, but if you guys want to sing opera at any point, please feel free.
Wait, so I have to sing?
I don't think so, unless you want to.
Get to.
We have Logan.
We are going to do an opera at one point.
We'll do opera at some point, yeah. We have Logan, of course, playing Chico Marx. I believe it is Chico and not Chico. For a while I said Chico, and I'm pretty sure it's Chico. He's very popular with the ladies, I think is the reason for that, but don't quote me on that. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Nicole playing a bunch of people, including Rodolfo Lasapari, another great Italian name, who's kind of the like prima donna opera singer of the movie. All right. So we're all good to go. Kate, whenever you're ready, go for it.
All right. A Night at the Opera. The head of Leo the lion appears on screen and roars 3 times. Then the lion's head fades into Chico's, and Chico's appears. At the same time, the Latin inscription, Ars Gratia Artis, changes into Marx Gratia Marxes. Chico imitates the lion opening his mouth. His mouth opens and lion's roar is dubbed in. Chico's head is replaced by Groucho's, and the same imitation of the mouth opening is done, with the lion's roar dubbed in again. Now, Groucho's head is replaced by Harpo's. He opens his mouth twice and tries to roar, but no sound is heard. So Harpo reaches out of the scroll and comes up with his bulbous automobile horn. Once more, opening his mouth, he holds the horn beside it and toots twice to the audience. He grins in triumph. His face fades out and the regular main titles fade in. Behind the main credit titles is heard orchestral music of the principal era of Pagliacci. It's so hard to read, it's so faded. Pagliacci. Store window, Milan Street, night. The camera frames on a cardboard sign in a somewhat dirty store window, which is filled with vegetables, Italian groceries, etc. The placard reads, Italian Opera Company, Milan, Rodolfo Lasapari in Pagliacci, the last night of season. Street scene, Milan, night. This is a street in one of the humbler sections of Milan. The music continues under this and succeeding scenes. A street cleaner is seen brushing the exact tempo of the music towards the curbing. He's humming or singing a snatch from the opera, the same bars that the orchestra is playing. As he reaches the curb, he throws his broom down, spreading his arms open in a happy gesture as he hits the high notes. Then triumphantly, he produces a ticket for the highest gallery of the opera and flourishes it towards a fat, heavily mustached, elderly Italian shopkeeper still singing. Shot towards doorway of the store, with the street cleaner in the foreground now taking off his heavy leather apron. The stout shopkeeper, probably a vegetable and grocery store, is struggling into his coat. As he puts it on, standing in the doorway, he takes up the song of the street cleaner, doing it in a deep bass. At the same time, he produces about 15 tickets and spreads them out, fan-wise, to match the street cleaner's triumph. Through the doorway of the shop comes a procession of about 12 children, ranging in age from a tot barely able to toddle to a maiden of 18. Bringing up the rear, very much like a shepherdess after a flock, is the mother of this brood. She, too, is very generously proportioned dame. The whole troop starts down the street, the street cleaner tossing his apron to the store as he passes. They're still singing snatches of the opera as they go. Another street, in front of barracks. This is a very old and thick wall. With a heavy, somewhat rusted, wrought iron gate, a sentry is standing outside the gate. A dapper young captain of the Basligori, in a full dress, comes through the gate, singing a further snatch of the operatic air, continuing from the shopkeeper. He jauntily acknowledges the sentry's salute. Outside the gate, a street violinist is playing, shabbily dressed, synchronizing with the orchestral music. Without stopping this jaunting song, the officer notices the violinist and spins a coin through the air at him. Street, exclusive residential district. This might be in front of a hillside mansion. A very distinguished old gentleman in formal dress with a sash across his shirt front is helping his gray-haired and pleasant-looking wife into an Izzata Francini town car. He's smiling and humming, although very gently, in continuation of the officer's song. He steps into the car and the footman closes the door behind him. As the footman walks around to climb in beside the chauffeur, he continues the music by whistling. Street, in front of cathedral. Note, it would be swell if we had a shot of the Cathedral of Milan against which this scene could be processed. In an archbishop, a man with white hair and a benign face has just reached the bottom step of the cathedral. He is accompanied by two young priests who walk deferentially about half a pace behind them. The two young priests are humming, very softly. The archbishop is smiling pleasantly, almost ready to hum himself, but resisting as it's somewhat undignified. He responds in kindly fashion to the salutes of the faithful passing by. Interior of lobby, Hotel Italia. The room clerk's desk, leaning against a pillar, is the cardboard poster reading, Italian Opera Company, Rodolfo Lasapari in Pagliacci. And across one corner of the poster, a diagonal duster with final performance of the season printed on it. The clerk is sorting the mail, humming the operatic air as he does so. A woman comes up to the desk.
Room 438, please.
The clerk hands her a key and her mail. A porter comes to the scene carrying luggage on her track and humming, of course. A camera follows him to the service elevator where he dumps the trunk. As he does so, a waiter comes up to the scene carrying a loaded tray. He picks up the music from the porter. For a moment, they sing happily together. Then, with a smile, the waiter proceeds on his way, the camera following. The waiter enters the dining room. He passes a guest who is busily putting away his spaghetti, still to the music. The waiter stops just long enough to take a single note with him, then passes on to Mrs. Claypool's table. Mrs. Claypool, a young and handsome widow, in the evening clothes and sitting alone, she looks at her wristwatch, her foot taps the floor impatiently. Obviously, she's in a mood. At the table behind her, there sits a man and a girl. The girl, beautiful blonde, faces at the camera. The man, whose face we don't see, his back to Mrs. Claypool. A wine bottle is visible on their table.
The gentleman has now arrived.
No, he has not.
But the dinner will be spoiled, madame.
What's the difference? It's too late to eat now. Hey, boy! Will you page Mr. Driftwood, please? Mr. Otis B. Driftwood.
Mr. Driftwood? Paging Mr. Driftwood? Mr. Driftwood!
The blonde at the next table gives a little tinkly laugh. Her companion joins in boisterously. Tilting his chair back a little, he carelessly throws his cigar ashes over his shoulder. They drip down Mrs. Claypool's alabaster back. There's a quick close-up of this, but Mrs. Claypool remains blissfully unaware. Through all of this, the voice of the page has never ceased. Paging Mr. Driftwood, it now grows louder again, and the page is passing by.
Mr. Driftwood? Mr. Driftwood?
The camera now reveals the men in the adjoining table. It is, of course, Groucho.
Boy, will you do me a favor and stop yelling my name all over the restaurant? Do I go around yelling your name?
Mrs. Claypool, recognizing Groucho's voice, now turns on him in fury.
Mr. Driftwood?
Groucho, arising and moving towards the bellboy, says,
Hey, is your voice changing or is someone else paging me?
Mr. Driftwood.
Why, Mrs. Claypool, hello.
Mr. Driftwood, you...
Sorry.
Mr. Driftwood, you invited me to dine with you at 7 o'clock. It is now 8 o'clock and no dinner.
What do you mean no dinner? I've just had one of the biggest meals I ever ate in my life, and no thanks to you either.
I have been sitting right here since 7 o'clock.
Yes, with your back to me. When I invite a woman to dinner, I expect her to look at my face. That's the price she has to pay. $9.43. This is an outrage. If I were you, I wouldn't pay it. Now then, Mrs. Claypool, what are we going to have for dinner?
But you've just had dinner.
All right, then we'll have breakfast. Waiter, have you any milk-fed chickens?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, squeeze the milk out of one and bring me a glass.
Mr. Driftwood, 3 months ago, you promised to put me into society. And all that time, you have done nothing but draw a very handsome salary.
You think that's nothing, huh? How many men do you suppose are drawing a handsome salary nowadays? Why, you can count them on the fingers of one hand, my good woman.
I am not your good woman.
Don't say that, Mrs. Claypool. I don't care what your past has been. To me, you are my good woman, because I love you. There. I didn't mean to tell you, but you dragged it out of me. I love you.
Oh, come now, Mr. Driftwood. It's a little hard to believe that when I find you dining with another woman.
That woman? Do you know why I sat down with her? Because she reminded me of you.
Really?
Of course. That's why I'm here with you. Because you remind me of you. Your eyes, your throat, your lips, everything reminds me of you. Except you. How do you account for that? If she figures that one out, she's good.
I think, Mr. Driftwood, that we had better keep everything on a business basis.
How do you like that? Every time I get romantic with you, you want to talk business. There's something about me that brings out the business in every woman. All right, we'll talk business. You see that man over there eating spaghetti?
The camera
No.
picks up the spaghetti. I can't read it. Go ahead. It's too hard. I can't see it.
His face is completely hidden by a mess of spaghetti. No.
Well, you see the spaghetti, don't you?
Yes.
Well, behind that spaghetti is none other than Arturo Guili, director of the New York Opera Company.
The spaghetti is lowered for a second. We see his face.
Do you follow me?
Yes.
Well, stop following me. I'll have you arrested. Now, I've arranged for you to invest $200,000 in the New York Opera Company.
I don't understand.
Don't you see? You'll be a patron of the opera. You'll get into society. Then you can marry me and they'll kick you out of society. All you lose is $200,000. Mr. Guili, are you there?
Ah, Mr. Driftwood, Mr. Driftwood.
Ah, Mr. Guili. Mrs. Claypool, Mr. Guili, Mr. Guili, Mrs. Claypool, Mr. Guili. I could go on like this all night, but it's tough on my suspenders. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, Mr. Guili, Mrs. Claypool, Mrs. Claypool, Mr. Claypool.
Mrs. Claypool.
I just wanted to see if your rings were still there.
Mrs. Claypool, you are as charming as you are beautiful.
I'm afraid you used that speech before, Mr. Guili.
Yes, he said the same thing to me when I met him. Now let's understand each other. Listen, Guili, making love to Mrs. Claypool is my racket. All you're after is $200,000.
By the way, Mr. Guili, what do you intend to do with the money?
And you'd better make it sound plausible, because as incredible as it may seem, Mrs. Claypool isn't as big a sap as she looks. How's that for lovemaking?
I think the Italians do it better.
All right, Guili, it's your turn. And remember, you can't throw Mrs. Claypool down. At least that's been my experience.
Mrs. Claypool, it is right generous of you to help us. Now then, you have of course heard of Rodolfo Lasapari?
Of course.
He is the greatest tenor since Caruso. Tonight, with the money you so generously provide, I see Lasapari for the New York Opera. He will be a sensation, and society will be at your feet.
Well, there's plenty of room.
And now, the opera awaits us if you will both honor me by occupying my box.
I shall be charmed.
And you, Mr. Driftwood?
I'll be along later. And remember, Guili, lay off the lovemaking, because I saw Mrs. Claypool first. Of course, her mother really saw her first, but that was before my time. See you later.
Willie and Mrs. Claypool depart. The camera again picks up the blonde at the adjoining table.
Hey, come on over. I got another check for you. Pardon me, madam. Did you drop this?
Exterior Opera House. All the excitement and glitter of the opening night. Automobiles and carriages driving up the main entrance. Fashionably dressed people entering the opera house. Closer angle main entrance. The crowd in the lobby, Guili and Mrs. Claypool among them. gallery entrance. A poorer, shabbier crowd, but an even happier one. Occasional members of the arriving audience singing loud snatches of the songs. Among them, the shopkeeper and his expansive family. Also, the street cleaner. Through all of this, the sound of the orchestra tuning up. Underneath the stage, the orchestra is tuning up, preparing to enter the pit. Backstage stairs. The members of the ensemble in costume trooping down the stairs to take their places on stage. The camera travels up the stairs, showing the descending troupe. It shoots along the corridor and stops for a moment at a poster on the wall, which reads, Opera Company, Milan, presents the world's greatest tenor, Rodolfo Lasapari, and the following company of distinguished artists. The names of the distinguished artists, however, are in such small print that they cannot be read. The camera travels a few feet further and pauses to reveal a dressing room door. One on its letters is simply Rodolfo Lasapari. Dissolved through the door to his dressing room. Harpo is revealed. Harpo dressed as Pugliacci and very much the opera singer. He swings his arms wide, opens his mouth for a great note, but nothing comes out. He's greatly disappointed by this, pats his chest a few times, uses the atomizer, and tries again. Still, nothing happens. Outside the stage door, a waiting group of girls in a limousine draws up.
It's Lasapari.
Others pick up the dry Lasapari, a milling crowd as he steps out of his car. Autograph book, sign mine, please. Oh, Signor Lasapari. He swaggers through the stage door, signing as he goes. Harpo again. With fine tweezers, Harpo is plucking out his eyebrows, jumping with pain as he does so. The door opens and Lasapari enters.
What are you doing in my costume? Take it off immediately.
Harpo quickly peels off the clown costume, revealing that he is dressed underneath in the naval regalia of Lieutenant Pinkerton of Madame Butterfly.
You.
He strikes Harpo in the face. Harpo reels, regains his balance, and gives a quick naval salute. Then he strips off the Pinkerton costume, and the camera picks up Lasapari's face for a moment. We see Lasapari's fury turn to amazement, then we cut back to Harpo. It turns out that under the Pinkerton costume, he is dressed as Lagartio from Faust.
Cypress, take that off. Take it off, I tell you.
Harpo is still coy. He shrinks away. Lasapari takes a threatening step towards him. Harpo runs away, circles the dressing room chair. The effect that we want to achieve here is that the city slicker bent on running the innocent country girl. Harpo continues to run around the chair, and as he does so, he drops the costume and is finally revealed in running pants.
Stand still. Where did you get this?
For answer, Harpo opens a closet door. A girl in lingerie runs out and escapes from the room.
Get out. You are no longer my dresser. You're fired. Get out.
As Harpo opens the door, Lasapari strikes him with the whip again. The second lashing is observed by a girl who is just emerging from a dressing room across the hallway. She's already in costume. She stands with her hand on the knob of her door, drawing it shut. And lettered on this door, the letters not so imposing as those on Lasapari's door, is her name, Rosa Castaldi. Simultaneously, the first strains of the overture are heard from downstairs.
The overture. Come back. Meet me up at once.
Harpo goes back into the room, closing the door behind him. The girl across the hall stands watching for a second, then makes up her mind. She opens her door again. Inside Rosa's room, as she enters, a maid is busy hanging up costumes. Rosa picks up a bunch of flowers. There's a close-up of a card attached to them. To Rosa from Rodolfo. She indignantly throws the bouquet to the wastebasket.
Signorina.
I wouldn't wear Lasapari's flower. Oh, does that mean? I would wear Lasapari's flowers if they were the only ones in the world. Come in.
A good-looking young man comes into the room, already in costume for the evening's opera. His name, as we learn, is Riccardo Baroni.
Oh no, not if you're going to use that tone. Not now. Let's try the whole thing over again, and this time be a little more cordial.
Come in.
That's better. Now do it once more.
Ricardo, you're such a fool.
Now, what was it you wanted to see me about?
Oh, I suppose I sent for you.
Well, you meant to. Didn't she marry? Now look. Here it is. Here it is in the last night of the season, and I'm more in love with you than ever. And what are you going to do about it?
Now, Ricardo, we have all summer to talk about that over. Tonight, we have to sing an opera.
Have to sing an opera? You have to sing? What am I? Just a glorified chorus boy?
Don't say that, Ricky.
I've got to say it. And I got to say something else to say. What are you doing tonight? Unless that big ham Lasapari has asked you first.
He has asked me first, Ricardo,
Just my luck.
but I'm dining with you.
Hooray! There will be champagne, music, flowers. No. No flowers.
The orchestra pit. The appraised arms of the orchestra leader. At a signal, the orchestra plays the opening strain of Pagliacci. The curtain starts to rise. A shot of the audience, the house in rapt attention as the opera begins. Wheelie's box. Wheelie and Mrs. Claypool revealed. The stage, an ensemble scene, which Ricardo figures as a leader of the villagers. They are singing their heads off. Outside the stage door, stage doorman sitting in his chair against the wall, humming the music, which floats out from the stage. Chico comes along.
Hello, Fiorello. You know you are. What are you doing here? Thought you were working as a streetcar conductor.
I made a quick profit. I got off at the end of the line. Where's Ricardo?
The camera pans with Chico as he goes backstage and encounters a stagehand.
Hello, thought you were working on a farm. What happened?
Same old story. The farmer's daughter.
Oh, the farmer had a daughter?
No, he didn't have a daughter. That was the trouble. Ricardo!
Chico proceeds further, encounters Harpo, embraced in fond greeting.
Where's Ricardo?
Harpo points to the stage. On stage, the climax of the music. The audience again applauding. In the wings backstage, Ricardo comes off stage to find Chico waiting for him. During the early lines of the scene, the other singers are trooping past. The entire scene, of course, is played to an undercurrent of music.
Fiorello,
Ricardo!
what are you doing here? I thought you were out with the circus.
The circus? When I was with the circus? Oh, yeah, I nearly forgot. That was a long time ago, last week. Then I have lots of jobs.
Doing anything now?
Well, I was playing the piano at a Chinese restaurant, but the boss tried to pay me in lychee nuts. I said, no lychee nuts to you, mister, so I quit.
Your piano and my voice, all those years we studied at the conservatory, and what's come of it?
What's the matter with you? We're still young. We got our health.
The voice of Lasapari, now singing on stage, swells to a climax. The camera catches his action for a second while Ricardo and Chico turn and look at him. From a distance comes the applause of the audience.
You hear that? Someday, Ricardo, you are going to be where Lasapari is. And the audience is for you. And when you were a little boy, about 6 years old, you sing better than Lasapari. Remember those concerts you gave at the church?
Maybe I was better at 6 than I am now.
What are you talking about? You're better than Lasapari ever was, and you know it.
All right, I know it, and you know it, but the public doesn't know it.
Haven't we tell the public? You know what we need? We need a manager. Some wise guy. I'm just a fella.
You do? Who is he? Who is it?
Me!
But you wouldn't make any money at it.
That's all right. I break even. As long as I don't lose anything. This is our Rosa. She has done well. You still crazy about her? And she about you?
Even if she were, I couldn't ask her to marry me.
You wait. Everything come out all right. Anyhow, you and I, we're together grand, like old times, eh?
Like old times.
You betcha my life. Don't worry. Manager fix everything.
Herb in front of the opera house. Groucho drives up in a cab.
Is the opera over yet?
Not yet, senor. A few minutes.
I told you to slow these horses down. On account of you, I nearly heard the opera. It's the narrowest escape I ever had in my life.
Interior opera house. Lasapari is pouring out his voice in the golden notes of the final aria of the opera. The stage. As Lasapari finishes his song, the curtain drops. Thunders of applause throughout the house. Shots among the audience of various representative groups. In the boxes, wild applause from the people in evening dress. In the galleries, mad enthusiasm. People standing in their seats cheering. Cries of bravo, bravissima, piso. Yells for Lasapari. The shopkeeper and his youngsters, the street cleaner, yelling themselves hoarse in approval. The leader of the orchestra taking a bow, Laspari taking several bows. Rosa takes 2 bows with him. The curtain finally dropping, the house lights flush full on, the footlights dim. Main entrance opera house. People are pouring out. Groucho's cab at the curb.
He is over, Signore, the opera.
All right, here's my ticket.
He dashes from the carriage to the opera house, through the lobby. As he weaves his way through the people coming out, he shouts.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
In Wheelie's box,
Jack, you're muted.
Your good friend, Mr. Driftwood, does not seem to be a lover of the opera.
I can't understand it. Where is he?
If you will pardon my saying, Mrs. Claiborne, Mr. Driftwood does seem hardly the person to handle your business affairs.
I'm beginning to think the same thing.
Groucho arriving in Wheelie's box. Wheelie is helping Mrs. Claypool with her evening wrap.
Bravo, bravo. Well, I made it. How soon does the curtain go up?
The curtain, Mr. Driftwood, goes up again next season.
You have missed the entire opera.
That's all right. I'll see the second show.
Well, Mrs. Claiborne, was I right? Isn't Rodolfo Lasapari the greatest tenor who ever lived?
How much would you have to pay him?
What is the difference? He must sail with us tomorrow night. No matter how much we pay him, he would be worth $1,000 a night.
How much?
$1,000 a night.
What does he do?
What does he do? He sings.
We can get a phonograph record of Minnie the Moocher for 75 cents. For $1.25, you can get Minnie.
If you will excuse me, Mrs. Claypool, I think I had better arrange to see Lasapari. You are agreed? $1,000 a night?
Oh, whatever you think.
$1,000. There must be some way for me to get a piece of that. Wait a minute. Why don't I sign Lasapari? I represent Mrs. Claypool.
But I represent the New York Opera Company. Boy, will you give me a card to Signor Lasapari, please?
Pardon me. I think I see a rat I used to know.
In the wings, a few privileged opera goers have come backstage and are congratulating the artist. Quite a few are clustered around Lasapari. They move away to the accompaniment of his gracious but condescending thank yous. Lasapari has a dressing gown over his costume. In another group stands Chico, Rosa, and Ricardo.
Ah, little Rosa, how you sang tonight?
The Lasapari group again. Harpo stands there carrying a serving dish with a cover on it. He tries to get Lasapari's attention but fails. Finally, right at Lasapari's ear, he gives a shrill whistle. Fingers in mouth, Lasapari jumps.
What is it? What do you want?
Harpo stands formally at attention with the covered dish in hand. He tilts the cover a little, revealing a card underneath. Lasapari takes it. Harpo now tilts the cover at another angle and pulls out a sandwich. He disappears eating it. Lasapari looks at the card. Insert of card. Arturo Guili, Managing Director, New York Opera Company. Scribbled across the cards are the words, "May I see you? Important." Back to scene. Lasapari stands with the card in his hand. As Rosa and Ricardo pass by, laughing, Lasapari grasps her arm, taking her away from Ricardo.
Ah, here you are. My good friend Arturo Gili is
Yeah.
coming around. Say that again?
Wheelie.
I think it's Geely.
Gili, thank you. How would you like to have supper with us?
I'm so sorry, Senor Lasapari. I already have an engagement.
Oh, I see. Well, that's too bad because I have an idea that he's going to invite me to sing in New York and may permit me to have my leading lady. You sure you can't break your engagement?
I'm terribly sorry, Senor.
Camera pans with Lasapari. He stumbles over Harpo. Business.
You did that on purpose. You're fired. You understand? Fired.
Hey, you big bully. What are you doing to that little bully?
What do you got to say about it?
Just this. Are those tights red or have you got high blood pressure? I don't even know you. I'm not in the habit of speaking to people I don't know. If you have anything to say to me, get somebody to introduce us.
Why you?
Oh, nice work. I think you got him. Oh, smelling salts, eh? You're sorry for what you did, eh? Well, that shows a nice spirit.
Laspari begins to react, looking up dazedly and sits up. Harpo rushes over for another sandbag. It drops, knocking Laspari out again. Harpo goes, waving farewell to Groucho. Groucho drops some ashes on the unconscious Laspari and puts one foot on the body, gladiator style.
Get fresh with me, huh?
Chico enters.
What's the matter, mister?
Oh, we had an argument. This fella pulled a knife on me, so I shot him.
Do you mind if I,
Oh, help yourself. Plenty of room.
Chico puts one foot on Laspari. Groucho's foot still rests there. In the minds of the boys, Laspari's body immediately becomes a brass rail.
2 beers, bartender.
I'll take 2 beers, too.
Well, things seem to be getting better around the country.
I don't know. I'm a stranger here myself.
Stranger, aren't you an Italian?
No. I just look that way because my mother and father are Italian.
I just remembered I came back here looking for somebody. You don't know who it is, do you?
Funny. It just slipped my mind.
I remember now. The greatest tenor in the world. That's what I'm after.
That's funny. I'm his manager.
Who's manager?
The greatest tenor in the world.
The fellow that sings at the opera here?
Sure.
What's his name?
What do you care? Some Italian name. I can't pronounce it. What do you want?
Well, I'd like to offer him a job. Would he be interested?
I don't know, but I'm interested. That's the main thing. What sort of job?
With the New York Opera. America's waiting to hear him sing.
Well, he can sing loud, but he can't sing that loud.
Well, I think we can get America to meet him halfway. The main thing is, can he sail tomorrow night?
If you can pay enough money, he can sail last night. How much you pay him?
Let's see, $1,000 a night. I'm entitled to a little profit. How about $10 a night?
$10. All right, I'll take it.
That's fine. Of course, I want a 10% commission for putting the deal over.
Oh, and I get 10% as his manager.
Well, that leaves $8. Say he sings once a week. That's $8 a week. Clear profit for him.
Oh, he sends $5 home to his mother.
Well, that still leaves him $3.
$3. Can you live in New York on that?
Like a prince. Of course, he won't be able to eat, but he can live like a prince. Oh, I forgot to tell you. He'll have to pay income tax on that $3.
Income tax?
Yes, there's a federal tax and the state tax, and there may be a city tax and naturally a sales tax.
How much does that all come to?
Well, I figure if he doesn't sing too often, he can break even.
All right, we'll take it.
Fine. Now, just his name here, and you sign at the bottom. You don't have to read yours because it's a duplicate.
What?
A duplicate. Don't you know what duplicates are?
Oh, sure, those 5 kids up in Canada.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that. I haven't been in Canada for years.
Wait a minute. Before I sign anything, what does it say?
Well, go ahead and read it.
Well, you read it. I don't like to read anything unless I know what it says.
I see. All right, I'll read it to you. Can you hear?
I haven't heard anything yet. You say something?
Well, I haven't said anything worth hearing.
I guess that's why I didn't hear anything.
Well, that's why I didn't say anything.
Wait a minute. Can you read?
I can read, but I can't see it. If my arms were a little bit longer, I could read it. Here we are. Now, pay attention to this first clause. The party of the first part shall be known in this contract as the party of the first part. How do you like that? Pretty neat, eh?
Nah, that's no good.
What's the matter with it?
I don't know. Let's hear it again.
The party of the first part shall be known in this contract as the party of the first part.
Sounds a little better that time.
It grows on you. Want to hear it once more?
Only the first part.
The party of the first part?
No, the first part of the party, the first part.
Well, it says the first part of the party of the first part shall be known in this contract. Look, why don't we quarrel about a thing like that? We'll take it right out.
Sure. Long anyway. What do you got left?
Well, I got about 1.5 feet. Now then, the party of the second part shall be known in this contract as the party of the second part.
I don't know. I don't like the second party either.
You should have come to the first party. We didn't get home till around 4 in the morning. I was blind for 3 days.
Look, couldn't the first part of the second party be the second part of the first party? Man, we got some.
Look, rather than go through all that again, what do you say?
Fine.
Now I've got something here you're bound to like. You'll be crazy about it.
No, I don't like it.
You don't like what?
Whatever it is.
All right, why should we break up an old friendship over a thing like this? Ready?
Okay. Now the next part, I don't think you're gonna like.
All right, your word's good enough for me. Now then, is my word not good enough for you?
I should say not.
All right, let's go. The party of the 8th part.
Nope.
The party of the 9th part.
Say, how come I got a skinnier contract than you?
I don't know, you must have been on a tear last night. Anyhow, now we're all set. Now sign right here.
I forgot to tell you, I can't write.
That's all right. There's no ink in the pen anyway. But listen, it's a bargain, isn't it? We got a contract, no matter how small it is.
You betcha. One thing I want to know. What does this say?
Oh, that's nothing. That's the usual clause in every contract. It says if any of the parties participating in the contract are shown not to be in their right mind, the contract is nullified.
What do you call it?
That's what they call a sanity clause.
You can't fool me. There ain't no sanity clause.
Wheelie coming backstage. As he enters the scene, Groucho crosses to him.
Well, Gwilly, if you want your tenor, you got to do business with me.
What do you mean?
I mean that I've signed him up personally. If you want him, you'll have to pay. I'm not going to let him go for any measly $1,000 a performance. I'm asking $1,500.
I don't believe it. Laspari wouldn't sign with an unknown like you.
Well, he has, hasn't he?
No, you signed Riccardo Baroni. That's my man, Baroni. You just got the name wrong.
Baroni? Who is Baroni?
That's a fine way to behave. Here I come in and make an honest business deal with you, and you try to cheat me. And what for? A few paltry dollars. For $8 a week. You gotta be ashamed of yourself. I'm through with you. Look at me. I was trying to skin you out of nearly $1,000 a week. That's more like it.
I do you a big favor. Baroni sing better than Laspari ever sing. He's a real artist.
That's not the point. I asked you for Laspari. Now, where is he?
Laspari's body. He moves a little. Obviously, he's regaining consciousness. We see the expressions of the various people.
Laspari! Laspari!
Laspari?
Sure, that's Laspari.
That's all I need to make it a perfect day. Come on, let's get out of here.
Yes, I think a walk will do us some good.
Lily kneeling before Laspari, tenderly raising his head. A hand releases the rope again. The descending bag knocks Laspari and Guili cold. It has all been very fast. We now see a flash of Harpo, his hand just leaving the rope.
Good shot, Tommaso.
Won't you join us in a walk?
Harpo takes Groucho's arm and they walk out, followed by Chico. Ricardo, whistling, comes into the scene. Chico stops him.
Riccardo, I got some good news for you.
Yes?
I just missed getting you a job by that much.
He indicates a small amount of space between his fingers.
You did with whom?
This man. He's my friend. We all his friends.
Something tells me I'm going to regret that I ever met you.
I think so too. Hey, Tommaso?
Fade out. Fade in on the dock and the boat. Night. The confusion of the dock just before sailing, with passengers arriving, trunks being wheeled past, etc. The gangplank, passengers streaming aboard. We hear the music of the ship's orchestra. The ticket window on the dock. A line of passengers surrendering their tickets. The gangplank again. The camera centers on Groucho and Mrs. Claypool as they move up the gangplank.
Are you sure we have everything, Otis?
I never had any complaints yet.
On the dock, the camera picks out Rosa and Ricardo.
Well, here you are on your way to America and fame. And fame.
Oh, Ricky, I wish you were going with me.
Well, I would if I had the fare. Say, that reminds me, I forgot to bring you those flowers.
What flowers?
I saw the most beautiful flowers in the park, and if that cop hadn't been watching, they'd be here now.
Oh, Ricardo, I'm going to miss you.
How do you think I feel about it?
Wheelie comes along.
Miss Castaldi, all ready for your big trip?
Oh, Miss Greeley, this is Ricardo Baroni of the Opera Company.
How do you do?
Baroni. Did you say Baroni?
What's so funny about that?
Mr. Otis T. Driftwood seems to think you have quite a voice.
Oh, he has, Miss Greeley. Really, he has. A wonderful voice.
Really, I have.
Well, that's very interesting. Very, Rodolfo.
This as Laspari comes along the dock, escorted by most of the opera company. All very gay. They bring an accordion, a guitar, etc. A great exchange of greetings. Hello, hello, Rosa, come on. We'll take you aboard.
Come on, Ricky.
Well, Rosa, here we are, on our way.
Close up of Ricardo. He sees Laspari and Rosa together. He feels very much out of it. Top of the gangplank. The gay crowd reaches the dock. Cries of Viva Laspari from the dock. Laspari turns, acknowledges with greeting by lifting his hat, shows the bandaged head.
Already they missed me.
It is the fortune of war. Italy's loss is America's gain.
The crowd around Laspari begins to beseech him. Come on, Laspari, a farewell song. Yes, Laspari, a song, a song.
Oh, I must beg to be excused. I have slight touch of laryngitis. Why must I sing if I'm not being paid for it?
The crowd groans its disappointment. Someone says, how about Rosa? Yes, Rosa, you sing, Rosa. They surround Rosa, who's scanning the crowd, looking for Ricardo. Then her gaze goes to the dock. She finds him and waves to him. Ricardo on the dock. He waves back. The deck again, more beseeching from the crowd.
Why, of course, I'll be very happy to.
A shout of pleasures as they strike up a tune with their musical instruments. She sings. Ricardo sings back to her, a second chorus. The next few scenes are played under cover of the singing.
Mr. Gooley, hasn't he a wonderful voice? Could you use him in New York?
It is not a bad voice. Someday, perhaps, when he has made a reputation.
A sailor ringing the departure boat. All visitors ashore, all visitors ashore. The gangplank, visitors streaming down. On deck again, Chico and Harpo arrive.
Rosa, we look all over for you.
Goodbye, well, goodbye, Tommaso.
Harpo comes out of the embrace. It's about to start all over again, but Ricardo beats him to it. We hear the bell ringing again. Harpo goes around the deck, embracing one girl after another. The final one turns out to be a middle-aged woman. Harpo starts to swing on her. Chico and Baroni enter the scene.
Come on, we gotta get off. That's all right, I kiss him already. Come on!
The three start to run off. The passengers gangplank.
All right, let her go.
Sailors start to pull in the gangplank. Groucho suddenly appears on the deck, frantic.
Wait a minute. Have I got time to go back and pay my hotel bill?
Too late.
That's fine.
A corridor on the boat. A steward wheeling a trunk on the truck. Further along the corridor, Groucho squeezing against the wall as the steward wheels the trunk past.
Hey, that's my trunk. Where are you going with that?
Suite number 58.
That's me.
He vaults up to the trunk and is wheeled along with it. Another spot in the corridor. Groucho and his trunk are still being wheeled along. From around the corner comes a steward with another load of luggage piled high. Now seeing where he's going, he bumps into the Groucho trunk.
Hey, you. Why don't you look where you're going? I had my hand out.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Sorry, look at that fender. It's all bumped out of shape. What's your number?
There's a close-up of the man's badge with which Groucho reads. Back to scene.
32. You'll pay for this, my good man. Are you insured?
What?
Have you got any insurance?
No, sir.
Then you're just the fellow I want to see. I have here a liability policy which will absolutely protect you no matter what happens. If you lose a leg, we'll help you look for it. Now, all this will cost you is, what have you got there? $1? $1. Thank you.
We get a quick close-up of the paper. It is Groucho's hotel bill. The part that's visible reads as follows. Hotel Italia, Milan, Otis B. Driftwood, 6,000 lira. Immediate payment requested. Back to scene.
All right, let's go. Suite number 58. Don't go over 20 miles an hour.
Close-up of a stateroom door in which is lettered Suite A, B, C. The camera draws back, revealing the ship's purser talking to three distinguished-looking men in uniform, who look exactly alike. They are hung with medals, they have pointed black beards, one like the other, and they stand in perfectly straight line. At the same moment, Groucho comes into view, perched on his trunk.
Here you are, gentlemen, the finest suites on the boat.
The trio enters the room, followed by the purser. The door closes again, and we see the lettering Suite ABC.
Was that three fellows or one fellow with three beards?
Another corridor, an angle shot of several cabins, their doors standing open. Groucho on his truck comes into view. He's singing Ridi Pagliacci lustily. The camera pans with him and stops at the first of the open doors. It's cabin number 50, occupied by that one. The door is standing open and Guili inside, combing his hair. Groucho's voice draws him to the door.
Ah, Mr. Guili, signing any tenders today?
Wheelie in annoyance slams the door. Groucho continues right on his way, still singing. Cabin number 52 is next. Laspari is inside, surveying a still wounded head in the mirror.
I see you've still got a hangover.
Laspari turns quickly, sees who it is, grabs an ashtray, and hurls it at Groucho's head. Groucho catches the tray, uses it for cigar ashes. By good luck, Groucho has just reached that spot in the music where Pagliacci laughs. So Groucho laughs tauntingly. The truck has not stopped moving for this Laspari scene. It now comes to cabin 54, the door of which is closed. As Groucho reaches it, the sound of sobbing comes from within.
Pull up here, driver.
He jumps down, listens again. Again we hear the sobbing. He knocks softly on the door, waits a moment, then gently opens it. Rosa is inside, sobbing on the bed. Groucho goes to her, puts a comforting hand on her shoulder, and she looks up.
Anything I can do?
Just a little homesick.
That's funny. I happen to have with me the greatest remedy for homesickness you've ever seen. A fella gave it to me just before the boat sailed. Here's the recipe, and take it every 2 hours.
Rosa opens the note. Insert, "Someday I'll find you," or whatever key phrase of the song may be. Yours forever. Back to scene, Rosa's tears change to smiles. She impulsively throws her arms around Groucho and kisses him. He goes cockily out of the cabin, once more singing Pagliacci, and with the new spirit mounts the truck. Camera follows Groucho to the next cabin, number 56.
Hello, Toots.
As Groucho's trunk stops, we see that Mrs. Claypool is installed in huge, luxurious quarters. As she turns to see who it is, Groucho comes into the room and surveys it.
Ah, twin beds, you little rascal, you.
Well, that one's a daybed.
A likely story. Well, call me at 9 o'clock. Good night.
Will you please get off that bed, Mr. Driftwood? What will people say?
I'll probably say you're a very lucky woman. Now will you shut up and let me go to sleep?
No, I will not shut up. You will kindly get up at once.
All right, I'll make you another proposition. Let's go into my room and talk the situation over.
What situation?
Well, you got me there. I tell you, you come to my room and I'll guarantee there will be a situation. If not, I'm the man I used to be.
I shall certainly not go to your room.
All right, then I'll stay here.
All right, I'll come. Only get out.
That's more like it. Shall we say 10 minutes?
Yes, 10 minutes. Anything.
Mrs. Claypool, you have made yourself a very happy woman. I should be waiting, alone. And I might add in passing that if you're not there in 10 minutes, I'll be here in 11. And if I come in here again, Mrs. Claypool, there will be no beating around the bush.
All right, then, I promised you, but please consider my reputation.
Mrs. Claypool, I give you my word, there will be nobody there but me. Nobody will see you go in, and if you stay there, nobody will see you come out. And I can assure you, my pretty wench, that if you come to my room, nothing will happen, unless you come to my room.
In the hallway, the steward has already moved along to cabin 58. The camera follows Groucho as he does likewise. He arrives there just as the steward is throwing open the door.
Your cabin, senor.
Groucho peers in. To say that it is the smallest cabin in the world is to give it a break. There's a single bunk, which is about 3 feet long.
Oh, wait a minute, this can't be my room.
Yes, sir. Suite number 58.
58, that's an awful big number for a rat trap this size. Say, I'm lucky I didn't bring my big trunk. I'll have to have another room. This may be all right for a honeymoon couple, but I'm traveling alone.
I'm sorry, sir, but this is the only room left.
This is an outrage. How'd they come to put me in a room like this?
Mr. Gili picked it out for you, sir.
Mr. Geely, eh? Well, I'll have to have my appendix taken out before I can get in there. Is there a doctor in the house?
Oh, I'm sure you'll find it very cozy, sir. And anything else, sir?
Yes, tomorrow you can come and take the trunk out and I'll go in.
The steward goes. Groucho enters the room humming the prisoner's song and opens the trunk. But the contents are not quite as expected. On one side crouches Ricardo Baroni, and the other, squeezed into an impossible space, is Chico. Below Chico is a small drawer keeps him from properly utilizing his half of the trunk. Startled, Groucho leaps out on the bunk as the two come out of their cramped quarters.
Hey, boss, here we are again.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I thought this was my trunk.
It is your trunk.
I don't remember packing you boys.
You know Ricardo, the greatest tenor in the world. You signed him up once.
Oh, sure. I just delivered a letter for you. How are you?
Both Ricardo and Chico have now emerged from their quarters, further jamming the room.
Pretty good. A little cramped.
I'm awfully sorry. If I'd known you boys were coming, I would have got a bigger trunk. But if I got a bigger trunk, I couldn't have got into the room.
That's all right. We take a potluck.
Pardon me, isn't that my shirt you're wearing?
I don't know. I found it in the trunk.
Then it couldn't be mine. Well, it's a great pleasure to meet you boys again, but I was expecting my other suit. You didn't happen to see it, did you?
Oh, sure, it take up too much room. We sell it.
Did you get anything for it?
$1.40.
That was my suit, all right. Well, I think I put a shirt in this drawer. Well, that can't be my shirt. My shirt doesn't snore.
Shh. Don't wake him up. He's got insomnia and he's trying to sleep it off.
Well, now tell me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but what are you fellas doing in my trunk?
It's a very simple. Ricardo loves Prosa. She go to New York, we all go too. We got no money, so we hide in the trunk.
Well, if you've got no money, what are you going to do in New York?
I'm going to sing. There must be some place I can work and I can be near Rosa. That's the main thing. You won't give us away, will you, Mr. Driftwood?
Well, you picked a good place to hide. As long as you stay in this room, they'll never find you. You can't see this room except under a microscope.
It certainly is a small room.
It is a little crowded, but in a pinch, you can always go back in the trunk. Right now, I wish you'd get out of here and stay out. I got a date with a lady, and you know the old saying, two's company, but five's a crowd.
Now we go. But first we gotta eat. We know we eat nothing all day and we're hungry.
Well, that sounds logical, but the main thing is that you've got to get out of here. We'll take the food situation up later.
We get food, we don't go.
I knew I never should have met you boys. All right, but you got to scram right after you've eaten. And see if you can get those pajamas off that sleeping beauty. I've got other plans for those pajamas.
Groucho opens the door, exiting to the corridor. Groucho's steward is passing by.
Ah, good evening, steward. What have you got for dinner?
Anything you'd like, sir. How about starting with some tomato juice? Or grape juice? Pineapple juice? Orange juice?
Hey, turn off the juice before I get electrocuted. I'll tell you. I'll have 2 fried eggs, 2 scrambled eggs, 2 soft-boiled eggs, 2 poached eggs.
2 hard-boiled eggs.
And 2 hard-boiled eggs. Let's make that 3 hard-boiled eggs. And some roast beef, rare, medium, well done, and overdone.
2 hard-boiled eggs.
And 2 hard-boiled eggs. Make that 3 hard-boiled eggs. And 1 duck egg. By the way, have you had any stewed prunes?
Yes, sir.
Well, give them some black coffee. That'll sober them all right up.
2 hard-boiled eggs.
It's either very foggy out or make that 12 more hard-boiled eggs. And steward, rush that along because the faster it comes, the faster this convention will be over.
Yes, sir.
Oh, steward, do they allow tipping on this boat?
Oh, yes, sir.
Have you 2 5s?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, come back later. I got a tenner in my trunk.
As Groucho enters the cabin, the phone rings and Chico answers it hurriedly.
Hello? Yes. That was for you.
I'm glad you told me. Yes?
We've come to make up your room, sir.
Are those my hard-boiled eggs?
I can't tell till they get in the room. Come on in, girls, and leave all hope behind. But you got to get out in 10 minutes, so you'll have to work fast. There's a little misunderstanding here. I said she has to work fast, not you.
Nah, it's no good talking to him. He's asleep.
He does better asleep than I do awake. Yes?
I'm the engineer. I came to turn on the heat.
Is it my imagination or is it getting crowded in here?
Did you want a manicure?
No, come on in.
Do you want your nails long or short?
Well, better make them short. It's getting a little congested in here.
And it is pretty congested. The picture of is Harpo struggling with one maid, the other maid is struggling with the vacuum cleaner, and Chico Ricardo has finally a little space on the top of the trunk where he sits as comfortably as he can, reading a newspaper. The engineer is pounding away at the pipes, knocking at the door. Groucho opens it and sees a girl.
Pardon me, is my Aunt Minnie in here?
No, but you can come in and prowl around. You can probably find somebody just as good.
She comes in, looks around, and struggles towards the phone, and immediately begins talking into the transmitter. Luckily, the confusion is such that we can't hear her. It would probably turn out to be one of the dumbest conversations on record. Another knock at the door, and the engineer's assistant comes in.
I'm the engineer's assistant. I came to turn off the heat.
Why, I didn't know you cared. This is going to be like Noah's Ark. And I had a date to be alone. You'll have to come in one at a time. And you can't come in at all, or I'm no judge of distance.
Food! Food!
As the steward enters, Ricardo scurries off the trunk and Chico makes a dive for its hard-boiled eggs. Harpo, who has somehow managed to be lifted up in the air, supported by the other occupants, gets a scissor hold on the neck of one of the stewards and reaches for some food, his eyes still closed. In the ensuing melee, Several other passengers enter and a steward with a suitcase or two. Mrs. Claypool emerges from her cabin. She looks carefully around, makes sure no one is there, and puts her hand on the door of Groucho's stateroom. By this time, Groucho has been forced against the wall with a girl pressing closely against him. As Mrs. Claypool opens the door, Groucho and the girl are catapulted out. Groucho landing on Mrs. C and the girl on top of them.
Now, Mrs. Claypool, I can explain everything.
Fade out. Fade in on written title, The Last Night Aboard. The music behind the title is gay and the carnival spirit is carried out in the title decorations. Horns being blown, paper hats, confetti, and so on. Cut to the long shot of the boat. Brilliantly lit from the stem to stern, it's plowing through the water. A searchlight hits the boat. Coming apparently from a passing boat, it travels up and down the Italian liner. The searchlight halts. It comes to a stop at the lower quarters of the boat, and the camera moves up to concentrate on this spot. Dissolve through to the interior. We're in steerage, a gay and colorful Italian crowd, but obviously the poorer classes. Singing, dancing, playing various musical instruments, little groups eating, sitting on the floor. Cut to the searchlight again. It travels up the boat until it hits the top deck. Dissolve through to the interior of the main dining room. It's another gay crowd, but these are first-class passengers in evening dress. Paper hats are perched on their heads, a handful of confetti is thrown, and so on. The camera first shows the room as a whole. A great horseshoe table has been set up, and 100 more passengers are seated around it. As the camera moves up, we locate our principals, the captain in the center of the horseshoe, flanked by the 3 aviators. Also present is Lasapari, Rosa, Groucho, Mrs. Claypool, and Guili, in that order. An orchestra is playing, dinner is still being served. The camera, after swooping around the principals, returns to the captain and the aviators. Captain getting to his feet, applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want the evening to pass without paying a little tribute to our distinguished guests of honor, the 3 greatest aviators in the world.
Applause as they all sit. Mrs. Claypool, Guili, and Groucho.
Isn't it all wonderful? After all, there's nothing there's nothing like the last night on an ocean voyage.
You bet your life there isn't. And you know why? Because it's the last time you're ever going to see those passengers you promised to look up in New York.
Camera shifts to Lasapari and Rosa.
It doesn't mean nothing to you that I'm the greatest singer in the world.
But I love to hear you sing, Rodolfo.
No, I do not mean singing.
But you said singing, Rodolfo.
But I don't mean singing.
But what do you mean?
Surely you don't expect me to say what I mean. If I said what I mean, then you would leave immediately.
Well, if you think I should.
Starts to rise.
No. What a woman. Let me put it this way. I love you. I adore you. I would die for you. Now do you understand?
I'm afraid not.
The camera moves to include Groucho.
The silliest conversation I ever listened to. The whole thing is very simple. When he says he's the greatest singer in the world, that means he loves you. Personally, I don't believe either statement.
The camera concentrates on Rosa and Groucho, leaving out Lasapari.
There may be something in what you say.
I'll tell you something confidentially. The only tenor I could ever stand was a fellow called Riccardo Baroni. Ever hear of him?
Ricardo, I wonder where he's right now. Probably roaming over the countryside someplace. Ricardo loves the open. He never could stand being cooped up.
He still doesn't like it.
Groucho's room. The trunk slowly opens. Harpo's face emerges. He comes out, opens the door, cautiously investigates the corridor. He finds the path clear, whistles to the others to follow him.
Come on, we find something to eat.
Are you sure it's safe? If they catch us, they'll deport us.
What do we got to lose? If they deport us, they gotta feed us. Let's take a chance.
They start to tiptoe out. Wheelie and Mrs. Claypool.
Ah, yes, I too have suffered. It is not 5 years since my beloved wife passed.
Mr. Claypool went to his reward 3 years ago.
And left you all alone with $8 million?
$8 million.
The camera moves to include Groucho.
Listen, Guido, this'll do you no good. If Mrs. Claypool wants to marry a fortune hunter, she's always got me.
Close up on Groucho alone.
And I'll tell you another thing. You can't exactly call me a fortune hunter because when I first proposed to Mrs. Claypool, I thought she only had $7 million. but the extra million has never interfered with my feelings for her.
If you have any real feeling for me, Mr. Driftwood, you would stop associating with that kind of riffraff that you have been going around with.
You mean
I mean
you?
those uncouth men that I saw with you around the opera house. I'm very grateful that they are not on board the boat.
Say I would be too.
I trust I shall not have to speak of this again.
So do I. And that reminds me, I forgot to lock my
Shot of
trunk.
Harpo, Chico, Ricardo. Looking at the dinner, they are in the passageway. A ship's officer comes through and looks at them. They pretend elaborate unconcern. The officer goes on his way, but unconvinced. Close-up of Harpo's face, almost in anguish. We show he is watching. At the table, a waiter serving some food to Groucho. Close-up of Chico and Ricardo watching.
Ah, fine friend. You come up here and eat while we starve.
Look, there's Rosa.
Rosa? There's baloney. That's more like it.
Close-up of Harpo, licking his lips as he watches. A shot of what he's looking at. We see a waiter serving huge portions of food. Back to Harpo, he can hardly stand it. A little dog is passing and Harpo picks it up, takes a bite. The dog yelps and Harpo drops it. The three of them streak away. Shot of orchestra, striking up. Groucho, Greeley, and Mrs. Claypool. Simultaneously, Greeley and Groucho address Mrs. Claypool.
Shall we dance? I wasn't talking to you, Greeley.
I was not talking to you. Mrs. Claypool, may I have the honor?
I really don't know what to do.
I'll fix that. Ready, Mrs. Claypool?
If you will pardon me, Mr. Greeley.
Certainly.
Groucho and Mrs. Claypool on the dance floor.
Do you rumba?
I certainly do.
All right, think of a rumba from 1 to 10.
They continue dancing. The steerage again. Music is playing gaily as the camera moves from group to group. Everyone is eating. Harpo, Chico, and Ricardo, as they discover the steerage, their eyes sweep to the scene.
Everyone eat down here, too.
Harpo gives a whistle and points. Table laden with food. Back to scene.
What do you think? All right, let's go.
The camera pans with them as they walk over to the table. Very nonchalantly, they load up their plates, piling with all kinds of food. Dissolve to the three boys, eating away for dear life. The musicians, as their melody comes to a climax and stops, a few of the musicians leave their places. Harpo, Chico, etc. They're just finishing their food. In the background, we see musicians arrive at the food table.
Ah. That was good. How you feel, Tommaso? How about you, Ricardo? How are you?
Never better.
By way of proving it, he bursts into a few bars of Reedy Pagliacci, very gaily.
Peter
Harpo
Pagliacci.
dashes to the harp. Chico runs to the piano. The three of them start to sing and play. The crowd applauds.
Yeah, stop that. Get away from there.
The music stops. The crowd, however, immediately protests. Oh, let him play. Yeah, let him play. Come on. The number formally begins. The dance, the specialties. Upper deck. Lasapari and Captain, suspicion. The captain and the other officers, trying to reach Chico, Harpo, and Ricardo. The dancing passengers render it difficult, so that at times the captain and his men are caught up in the dance itself. The three boys, playing the and more furiously and the same time looking around for a way to escape. Wherever they look, there's a group of officers. The dancing grows more and more gay, the music louder. Slowly but surely, the boys are honed in. The music approaches a climax. Inside the detention cabin, and already shut. The boat from the outside, as it rolls in the water. Close-up of porthole from outside, the water going into the room. Inside the room again, Harpo has been knocked down by the water.
What do you want to do? Drown us? What are you eating? Who you something to eat?
The camera outs to Harpo. He's happily chewing.
What do you got? Let me see.
Harpo brings his hand from behind his back. It seems that a fish has washed into the room. One bite has already been taken out of it. Rosa's room. She sits there softly crying. Groucho stands beside her. The door to the room is open.
Listen, that's 6 handkerchiefs of mine you've ruined, and that's all I've got, so you got to stop.
Why didn't you tell me Ricardo was aboard? Maybe I could have done something.
That's what I was afraid of. Now stop worrying.
But they'll send him back to Italy.
Well, he isn't back there yet. You leave everything to me. Otis B. Driftwood has never failed yet. I've been through bankruptcy twice, but I never failed. I'll see you later.
The camera follows Groucho as he goes towards his own cabin. A man in uniform standing outside the door.
Hello, what are you doing here?
They think you're in with the stowaways. I've got orders to follow.
Well, you can't follow me in here because there's only room for one of us.
The room downstairs. Harpo's fish is now a skeleton.
Get that thing out of here.
Harpo opens the porthole, first trying to time his action to the lurching of the ship. He tosses out the fish, but more water comes in.
Close it! Close it!
Harpo tries to close it but can't. Chico and Ricardo rush to help him, but the porthole sticks. A casserole of the boat, more water comes in.
Now you see what you do? We drown.
Outside the door, the beating is heard from inside, but the guard is impassive. Inside the room again, more water. It's up to their knees. Harpo leans out of the porthole, whistles shrilly for help. In Groucho's room, he is leaning on the porthole. Harpo's whistle is heard. Groucho leans over, looks down to the side of the boat. Harpo's head is a small spook for far below and considerably to one side. Groucho pulls out the glasses, looks down, and recognizes Harpo. He gives a whistle in return, waves his arm, looks around, wondering what he can do. Harpo whistles again, points to the rope which hangs within Groucho's reach, but not within Harpo's. Groucho, first taking the precaution of looking at his door, grabs the rope and tries to swing it over so that Harpo can catch hold of it. The room downstairs shot from outside the boat. Harpo repeatedly reaches for the rope, which just escapes with each roll of the boat. Finally, he gets it, gives a grunt whistle of triumph.
You got it? All right. You go first. If it's safe, then we come after.
Harpo takes a firm grasp on the rope and swings out of the porthole. Just then, the ship gives a terrific lurch and Harpo is dripped right into the ocean. In a moment, he comes up again as the ship rolls the other way. He brings with him a fisherman's knot end to end the entire morning's catch. Huge crabs crawl all over him. Other fish are entangled in him in the net, the lower porthole.
You can tell it's Friday.
Close up of Harpo. With terrific struggles, he tries to rid himself of the net and the fish, one at a time. Groucho's porthole.
Oh, too bad. The big one got away.
Harpo again. He gets rid of the final fish, then starts to climb up the rope. He gets almost to Groucho's room, and Groucho reaches out a hand to grasp him. The top deck. A sailor is turning a windlass to which the rope is fastened. He lets the rope out. The handle of the windlass whirls around. Harpo again. He is shot all the way down, right into the water. Groucho's porthole.
What a diver. That's the greatest dive I've ever seen since General Electric went down 100 points.
Harpo in the ocean. He grabs the rope and climbs up a little ways. Then he feels something biting him. Reaches quickly into his hip pocket, pulls a fish and throws it furiously in the water. He starts to climb again, but is too exhausted. He cannot go any further. He makes for the nearest porthole. There's a girl under a shower. She screams. Harpo watches for a second in admiration. The sailor on the top deck. This time he works the windlass the other way. Harpo again he is shot rapidly up much further than he wants to go. From the windlass rope runs some 50 feet before it's looped through a pulley and allowed to descend. Harpo accordingly is now 40 feet above the boat. The sailor, not seeing him, walks splendidly away. In Groucho's porthole.
Well, maybe I better buy a General Electric again.
Harpo again, he starts to descend the rope. Back at Chico.
What's he doing now?
I think he hang himself.
Groucho's porthole. Harpo finally arrives outside the porthole as Groucho helps him to the final few feet.
That's it. A little further. Give me a hand. That's right. Here we are.
There's a heavy knock on the door.
You can't come in here. They're watching the room. You got to find some other room. You understand?
Harpo nods, swings to one side, peers in the other stateroom. Shot through the porthole, a magnificent cabin, 3 beds, side by side, 3 aviators asleep, the Blackbeards carefully outside the covers. Harpo outside the porthole, he gives a reassuring nod to Groucho. Groucho nods back. Inside the aviator's cabin, Harpo climbs through, looks at the sleeping forms, considers, sees scissors, picks it up, and approaches the trio, smile on his face. Fade in on
All right,
ship going. Yep.
All right, we're recording.
Fade in on ship going through the harbor. Tugs and airplanes greeting it. A welcoming crowd on the dock. A banner stretched across the dock. Welcome to the heroes of the air. A welcoming committee in high hats coming to the gangplank. On the deck, the captain and his officers appear. The welcoming committee, consisting of some half-dozen men, come aboard and start to shake hands.
Good morning, gentlemen. How do you do? Good morning. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Captain.
Groucho appears.
Gentlemen, our distinguished guests have asked me to represent them and to act as their interpreter. Now, if you'll follow me to the cabin where I last saw them, there's at least a chance that they'll still be there.
Outside Suite 8BC, Groucho, the captain, and the welcoming party appear. Groucho knocks on the door. Nothing happens for a second. He opens the door an inch and peeps in. Inside the cabin, the crack of the door, we see Harpo, Chico, and Ricardo, now dressed in the regalion of the aviators, gluing on a few final hairs to their beards.
Oh, pardon me. Our distinguished guests are, they're changing. They'll be right out.
The door is now open wide. The boys come out, uniforms, medals, beards, and all. The beards are none too neat, and the clothes hang none too well on Chico and Harpo.
Ah, gentlemen,
The boys bow, not daring risk speech.
my friends, it is with a full heart.
Here, give me that. Let's cut this short. The whole thing is very simple. They want you to go to City Hall, and the mayor is going to make another speech. We can tear up the mayor's speech when we get there.
The ship's officer rushes excitedly up.
Yes.
Captain, the stowaways have escaped.
What? Well, they couldn't get off the boat. Where are they?
For answer, Harpo merely opens the door of Suite ABC. Lying on the deck, securely bound, are 3 aviators, now clean-shaven and dressed in the clothes of Ricardo, Chico, and Harpo. On the street, Groucho and the 3 boys just taking their places on the official car. A captain of the police is addressing them, introducing the newcomer.
Gentlemen, this is Detective Sergeant Henderson, who will act as your personal bodyguard.
He's not dressed like a sergeant.
He's a plainclothes man.
He looks more like an old clothes man.
At your service, gentlemen. If there's anything I can do, don't hesitate to call me.
All right, driver, let's call on Mr. Henderson. That's the first stop.
Broadway. The distinguished visitors riding through the confetti-swept city. Glimpses of the crowd, people in windows, and so forth. Close-up of the automobile. Harpo lounging back at his ease with his feet practically on Henderson's shoulders. Henderson is none too pleased. City Hall steps, the official reception. Microphones, a huge crowd, the mayor speaking. Our 4 boys stand in a line with Henderson beside them. A table with water pitcher and glasses beside the mayor, who is just finishing a glass of water. Close shot of photographers snapping pictures of the scene. Back to scene.
And so, my friends, as mayor of this great city, I take pleasure in inviting our distinguished visitors to tell us something of their achievements.
He motions to Chico. Applause from the crowd, of course. Close-up of Chico and Groucho.
What I say?
Tell him you're not here.
What if they don't believe me?
I'll believe you when you start speaking.
Back to scene. Chico advances to the microphones, takes a little sip of water before speaking.
My friends, how we come to America is a great story if I could tell it. When we first start out, we have no idea you're going to give us this great reception. When I say we're not entitled to this reception, I know more about that than you do. So instead, I tell you how we get these medals.
If you do, I'm getting off here.
You think we get these medals for flying, but you are wrong. These medals come with the suit. First you get the suit, then you get the medals. The only question is how to get the suit. That's the whole secret of flying. But once you get the flying machine, remember this. Keep the head still, left arm stiff, and follow through.
He completes the swing, hands clenched together as though holding a club. And the completion of the swing, he hits Henderson squarely in the face with his 2 hands and knocks him down.
What a suck that was. Henderson is down. 7, 8, 9. He's up again. What a fight, folks. I wish you were all here and I was home listening in on another program. And now you'll hear again from the mayor, who was so dull the first time he spoke. All right, Mr. Mayor, take it away.
This is the mayor again, and now I take great pleasure in introducing another one of our heroes who will tell you about some of his great exploits. I suggest that your speech should be a little more direct than your brother's.
Harpo, scared, looks the crowd over. Then he sees the water pitcher, pours himself a glass of water, faces the microphone again, takes a second glass of water. Once more he comes forward, then a third glass of water. We see an attendant's arm, remove the pitcher and replace it with a full one.
We're all right as long as the water supply holds out. I think I'll join you.
I'll take one too.
I make mine the same.
Please, please.
Now we got plenty of time. One more round. This one's on me.
All right, now just one more and then we'll all go home.
Gentlemen,
What do you say? One more? Just one.
but gentlemen,
Hey, where do you get this? This is good stuff.
Close-up of Henderson's face, watching them narrowly. Back to scene.
My wife's the greatest little woman in the world. No, I'm not married. Your wife's the greatest little woman in the world.
By this time, the boys are pouring and drinking, pouring and drinking.
please, gentlemen.
Hi-hat in hand, he mops his brow. Harpo obliges by pouring a glass of water into the hat. The mayor puts back on the hat. Water pours down all over him. A committee member laughs. The mayor glares at him. The committee member, straightening his face, hurriedly puts on his own hat, and water pours down over him.
The radio was waiting.
Harpo stands for a moment before the instrument, then spouts a stream of water. He narrowly misses Chico and lands on Henderson, who is furious. Henderson advances on Harpo, blood in his eye. In that moment, Chico spurts out a stream of water at Harpo. Harpo ducks, and Henderson gets it again. The trick is repeated again. Trick is Henderson makes for Chico and receives Harpo's next torrent. This time, however, about half of the committee also gets it.
Well, it looks as if the drought is over.
Chico backs away and sets himself for a terrific spouting. Harpo again escapes, but about 50 other people get it. Harpo also backing away. The crowd is quite willing to clear a path. Now spouts a terrific stream. Full 100 people are soaked. Close-up of Mayor and Henderson, back to scene.
Well, folks, I still wish you were here. It's the greatest thing since the Johnstown flood. This may be the last reception ever held in New York.
Close-up of Henderson and the mayor with Groucho listening.
Listen, I'm getting suspicious of these guys. I don't think they're aviators at all.
Neither do I.
The Civic Virtue Fountain. Harpo on the fountain, having replaced the figure of the Civic Virtue, he is spouting magnificently in the beautiful symmetric designs. Half a dozen fish emerge from his mouth. Groucho at the microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the celebration because the distinguished aviators, if they have any sense, are now going to scram out of here.
Groucho is sprinting away from the microphone. Fade out. Fade in. Close-up of signboard reading Ellis Island. Office of Commissioner of Immigration. The commissioner is seated at a huge desk. Also present are Henderson, Greeley, Lasapari, and the three aviators, still smooth-shaven, but again in uniforms. There are perhaps the beginnings of new beards.
Gentlemen, I cannot tell you how I regret this unfortunate incident. You are released with full apologies.
The aviators bow.
Now, the next thing to do is to catch those three crooks and deport them. And from the description you've given me, I'll have them within 24 hours.
That will be so very good.
If I were you, I would question Mr. Otis Driftwood. You bet I will. And if he had anything to do with this, he's going to jail, too.
Close-up of newspaper story. Imposters play hoax on mayors. Stowaways impersonate famous aviators at City Hall reception. Apology to real flyers. Immigration authorities search for men throughout the city. While a crowd of 10,000 cheered them to the echo of the steps of the City Hall, three stowaways, posing at the world-famous aviators, received the keys of the city yesterday from Mayor of New York. It was not until the impressive ceremony had been concluded that the gigantic hoax was discovered. Accompanying the story is a photograph of the City Hall proceedings, taken as the mayor was putting down his glass of water. Ranged in a row, Ricardo, Rico, Chico, Harpo, and in uniforms the beards of the aviators. Of course. A caption on this photograph reads, "Here are the three stowaways who fooled City Hall." The camera draws back and reveals that the paper is held by Groucho. Wearing a bathrobe, he is seated at a breakfast table set for four. The waiter is just finishing putting down food and he goes.
Well, this simplifies everything. Up till now, all I had to do was get rid of these guys. Now I've got to get rid of these guys and the police. Hey, what are you singing about? Did you see this?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to throw those two gorillas out of here, and that goes for you, too. I thought I got rid of those fellas when I sold my trunk.
The camera, having shown the double room for a moment, now moves in on the bedroom. There are 4 beds with Harpo and Chico in 2 of them. The alarm clock sounds. Harpo socks it with a mallet and goes back to sleep.
I'm cold.
Harpo puts an empty bed on top of him. In the living room,
Come on, kitties, kitties.
the bedroom, Harpo throws the bed off. They rush into the other room. In the living room, Harpo and Chico enter, go right to the food.
Here, this will take away your appetite.
No, just made me hungrier.
Harpo prepares the cupcake.
No, I don't like cupcakes.
Harpo and the hot dog, his reflection in the dish cover, the makeup scene.
You're getting dressed up to get out of here. That suits me.
No. We like it here. Nice beds, good food. You pay the bills.
Listen, I haven't paid a hotel bill in 30 years, and I'm not going to start now. Now, why don't you boys be nice? Get out of here before I get arrested.
No, I'd like to stay and see it.
There's a sharp knock at the door.
Who's that?
Another knock. Chico goes to the door.
Policeman, knock once more. That's good enough for me. Come on, boys.
Chico, Ricardo, Harpo are seen going through the window, onto the fire escape, which extends along the outside of the bedroom window and the living room window. Groucho now opens the door. It's Henderson who stands outside.
Yes?
You remember me? I'm Henderson.
Oh, yes, you're from the Exterminator Company. All right, just give me a once-over.
He sits down.
Interesting story in the morning paper, isn't it?
Yes, isn't it? Nice photograph, too.
Very nice. You live here all alone, do you?
Yes, I'm practically a hermit.
Mm-hmm. I noticed the table is set for 4.
Well, that's nothing. My alarm clock is set for 8. That doesn't prove anything.
Henderson strolls over and looks to the bedroom. He walks in as we see Groucho looking worried in the other room. Henderson in the bedroom surveys the mussy bed and the army cots.
Hey, you. What is a hermit doing with 4 beds?
Well, I'll tell you. You see those first 3 beds? I counted 5,000 sheep in those 3 beds last night. So I had to have another bed to sleep in. You wouldn't want me to sleep with the sheep, would you?
Henderson peers into the bathroom. The shower curtains are drawn and Henderson pulls them open.
Well, I fooled you that time. I only used 1 shower.
Henderson draws the curtains shut and strolls back to the bedroom, peers under the beds. Meanwhile, Groucho has strolled over the window of the living room and peers out, looking towards the left. We see Chico and Harpo in a spot between the windows and Ricardo further over, squeezed against the building. Close-up of a casino game, a 6 and ace are lying on the board. Back to Groucho.
You got a 7. Take them.
Harpo looks up, nods his thanks, and takes the trick. Living room, Henderson comes out the bedroom just at this moment.
What did you say?
Me? I didn't say a word.
I heard somebody say something. What is this?
That's a fire escape, and this is a room, and there's the door. And I wish you'd go. I want to be alone.
You'll be alone as soon as I get the evidence.
He steps out on the fire escape. As he does so, Chico and Harpo step from the fire escape into the bedroom and resume playing their game on the cots. Henderson in the fire escape looking around. Ricardo is now squeezed into a little ledge so that Henderson does not see him. Henderson proceeds to the bedroom window. Inside the bedroom, Harpo and Chico hear Henderson stop playing, lift the cot, and carry it through the living room.
When he gets out of here, we'll make it 3-handed.
Henderson stepping into the bedroom window. As he does so, Harpo and Chico step out of the living room window. Henderson looks around and sees the cot is missing.
Hey, you.
Coming.
What became of that 4th bed?
I don't know what you mean.
The last time I was in this room, there were 4 beds here.
Sounds like an orgy. I'm not interested in your private life, Henderson.
Ah. Say, what's this bed doing here?
I don't see it doing anything.
At this point, Harpo and Chico re-enter the bedroom and resume their game on another cot.
There's something mighty funny going on around here.
Not in this scene, there isn't.
Henderson goes on the fire escape again, and the boys enter the living room with a second cot.
Who's ahead?
You owe us $1 apiece.
Henderson comes in the bedroom again, which is a cue for the boys to exit by the fire escape. Henderson surveys the scene and again calls.
Hey, you!
Coming.
Am I crazy, or are there only 2 beds here?
Which question do you want me to answer first?
How did you get those 2 beds? How did they get together?
Well, you know how these things are. They breed like rabbits.
By this time, Harpo and Chico have re-entered the bedroom. Harpo turns the cot on end, sticks his fist through the opening in the center, and stands back at the closed door. He opens the cot, and the cot fits to the doorway.
I'll solve this if I have to stay here all night.
He grabs what he thinks is the doorknob, but it's Harpo's fist, turns it, and makes into the bedroom as Harpo calmly walks through the living room, where Groucho helps him arrange the cots. Henderson sees that only the bed remains and flutters around, calling frantically.
1 bed?
He goes to the fire escape, at which point Chico comes out of the bathroom and with Groucho's assistance puts the 4th bed into the living room while Harpo puts the breakfast table and chairs into the bedroom. Groucho sits down at the breakfast table and Chico and Harpo rush into the bathroom. As Henderson reappears at the fire escape at the living room window, he comes in and finds that the living room is apparently the bedroom.
Maybe I am crazy.
He rushes into the bedroom where Groucho is calmly drinking coffee. With a scream, Henderson runs to the fire escape.
Well, now I can take my shower.
As he starts for the bedroom, he's peeling off his bathrobe. He wears pajamas underneath. He arrives at the bathroom, opens the shower curtains. Harpo and Chico are sitting on the floor in the tub, apparently stripped and with the water pouring down over them. They're still playing casino. Slap the cards down on the floor of the tub.
All right, deal me in.
Henderson on the fire escape. He descends one flight, looking around. 1 or 2 flights further down is Ricardo, hanging on the window ledge. As Henderson's feet near him, he jumps into the room as the only method of escape. Inside the room, it's empty. Ricardo looks around. It's a bedroom, and obviously a woman's. Turns out, surprise, surprise, to be Rose's room. Immediately, she enters. As the door opens, Ricardo shrinks back, then quickly sees who it is.
Ricardo!
Rosa, so you thought you could come to America without me, eh?
Oh, you fool, you dear, dear fool.
Because I'm in love with you. You call me a fool, well, maybe there's something in that.
You know, if you were going to stow away on that boat, you might as well at least told me about it.
Well, the whole thing came up pretty suddenly. I didn't even have time to pack. I had to use another man's trunk.
But what are you doing here?
Easiest thing in the world. An open window, a detective, and here I am.
Ricardo, you shouldn't have. They'll only send you back again. Perhaps even put you in jail.
I don't care. It's worth it.
Suppose I went to Mr. Maybe he intercede for you.
Gulli wouldn't do anything. Lasapari's got to him first.
But there must be something we can do. Get in there. Who is it? Why, Rodolfo? Rodolfo?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Oh, you don't mind my dropping in?
No, of course not. Only I was going to take a nap.
Rosa, why do you do this to me?
Do what, Rodolfo?
Whenever I want to see you, you make some excuse. You will not dine with me. You will not ride with me. You won't even take a walk with me.
Oh, Rodolfo, you know how busy I am. I debuted in America.
Well, have you forgotten that it was I who brought about your debut in America?
Puts an arm around her.
No, of course I haven't forgotten.
Then why do you treat me this way?
Rodolfo, I must ask you to leave.
Now, my dear, why not be sensible?
Ricardo emerges from his hiding place.
If you ask me, I think she's being very sensible.
Well, now I understand. You did not tell me you had a previous engagement.
Well, now you know it.
Then I must apologize. And now permit me to withdraw. And boudoir to our company, free and proud.
And just what do you mean by that?
Ricardo, please.
Surely I've made my meaning clear. Permit me to congratulate you two on your taste.
For answer, Ricardo knocks him down.
Ricardo, you shouldn't have done that.
Spari is getting to his feet.
Have not heard the end of this.
I'm sure I haven't.
You may be very sure.
He looks at her for a second, then goes.
Ricardo, you must go. He'll tell the police.
Ricardo shoots to the fire escape, puts one leg through.
I won't go till I get one more kiss.
She goes over and kisses him, and he leaves. Fade out. Close up on 2 or 3 hands apparently hammering. Underneath the scene is an anvil chorus, and the various hands are descending on the beat. Camera draws back, reveals 3 stagehands in shirt sleeves, slapping cards down violently on the improvised table backstage. Camera draws further back, shows the bare stage of the opera house with the ensemble in rehearsal. The music stops suddenly as a distracted conductor raps for order. Surrounding him in the pit, there are musicians in shirt sleeves, handkerchiefs in their collars, and so forth.
No, 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 no. Now listen to me. Tonight we are opening. We open the season with the great Lasapari, and you sing like that? Now, once more, and I want to hear it.
Outside the stage doorman present. Groucho comes along, spats a cane, very gay, singing.
Afternoon, Tim.
Good afternoon, Mr. Driftwood. Ready for the opening tonight?
Certainly am. Listen to this. La 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 la.
The camera follows him backstage, the card game. Where he reaches there, the three stagehands leap respectfully to their feet, give a little gesture of greeting.
Oh, that's all right, boys. I was young myself once. Hello, hello.
The camera again follows Groucho to the elevator. A waiting elevator man is all bows and smiles.
Oh, waiting for you, Mr. Driftwood. Step right in.
Thank you, Herman.
Nice day today, isn't it?
Upstairs, the elevator arriving, Groucho steps out.
Thank you, Herman.
Immediately opposite is a door lettered Otis B. Drift. A man is busily scraping the name off. Herman, in an open elevator door, waits as he watches.
What's all this? What's going on here?
I mean, what's coming off here?
But you can't do that.
Want a bet?
But that's my office.
I got my orders from Mr. Geely. Take it up with him.
Close-up door. Arturo Geely. Director General. Groucho opens the door and goes in. Greeley's office as Groucho enters. Present are Greeley, Lasapari, Henderson, and Miss Claypool.
What's the meaning of this? If you think...
Close-ups of the four faces, sternly regarding him. The first face is that of Henderson, which brings Groucho up with a start.
Well, if you're busy, I'll come in again.
1 minute, Mr. Driftwood. We have some news for you.
News for me?
Mrs. Claypool has decided to dispense with your services immediately.
Dispense with my services. She hasn't had them.
I warned you, Mr. Driftwood, that if you continued to associate with those men, everything would end between us.
And you've been associating with them.
How do you know? You couldn't find them.
Those men will be under arrest within 24 hours.
Oh, that means you're off the case.
And when I get them, I'm going to arrest you as an accomplice.
You have disgraced me and the entire opera.
So, as Mrs. Claypool's new business manager, I must request you get out and stay out.
Just a minute, just a minute. You can't fire me without 2 weeks' salary. That's in Section 10 of my contract.
I find that you have overdrawn your salary for the next 6 months. And there's a couple of $1,000 missing beside that.
Well, in that case, I'll take 1 week's salary.
You will take nothing. Get out.
Well, if that's your best offer, I'll get out. But I'm not making a nickel on it. And as for you, Mrs. Claypool, I withdraw my offer of marriage.
Stalks out with dignity, tripping over the ladder of the door painter. He looks up at the door. There's nothing but a no left.
Well, unless you take that zero off, it's still my office.
He picks himself up and proceeds to the elevator, the door of which is still standing open.
This car is for officials. Take the stairs.
Groucho, at the head of the stairs, stands looking down. Shot of the stairs, going down about 4 flights, back to Groucho.
I can't walk all that distance.
All right, I'll help you.
He gives him a kick. Groucho tumbles down the 4 flights, rolling over and over. Reaching the street level, he falls right into the stage door, into the middle of the street, down an open manhole.
Oh,
Wipe 2, Guili's office. Guili and Lasapari present.
But why don't you want Rosa? I brought her over here on your account.
Well, I've changed my mind. This other girl, I think she's more the type.
More the type off stage, perhaps?
In a way, yes.
But is this other girl ready? Could she go on tonight?
I have rehearsed her perfectly.
Guili looks up at him for a second and then takes up the telephone.
Get me Miss Gandaldi, please.
A bench in Bryant Park. On it sit 4 disconsolate figures, Harpo, Ricardo, Chico, Groucho. It's a bench that was built for only 3, and the 2 end men, Harpo and Groucho, have none too much room. Harpo, finding himself slipping, braces his foot against a rock and holds his place. Finding this successful, he helps himself to a little more room. Groucho, as a result, is pushed right off his end and finds himself sitting on the ground.
well, that's all I needed. I'm certainly glad I met you boys. First, you get me kicked out of my job. Then you get me thrown out of my hotel. And finally, you push me off a park bench. Well, there's one consolation. Nothing more can happen to me.
Hey, you, get off the grass.
Well, I was wrong.
The whole thing was your fault. If you hadn't come to Italy, we never would have met you, and if you hadn't come back to Italy, we never would have gotten back in your trunk.
Yes, sir. I've certainly done well since I met you. The day you boys came into my life, I had a good job and was going to marry a rich widow. Now I can't even sit on the grass.
I'll give you my seat, but I'm sitting here.
Well, that's an offer. I'll tell you what. I'd like to think it over for a couple of days.
Yeah,
Where can
wherever
I
you
find
can.
you? Now I'm sick of that. Can't we meet somewhere
Harpo
else?
whistles excitedly, gets up and starts to run away.
It's Rosa.
Rosa!
Chico and Ricardo also run out of the scene.
Well, now I can have my
A few
bench
feet
back.
away, Rosa, Ricardo, Chico, and Harpo.
But Rosa, they couldn't do that to you.
That Lasapari. What we do to him?
Harpo scurries away. The camera follows him back to the bench. He whistles shrilly at Groucho, indicates the other group, and runs partway back again, returns, and pulls Groucho over.
What's the matter?
What do you think? She no sing tonight? Lasapari got Rosa fired.
Rosa bursts into tears.
It's all my fault. If I hadn't hit Laspari, this never would have happened.
You didn't hit him hard enough.
Fresh tears from Rosa.
Don't cry, darling. We'll do something about it.
Now, let's not waste any time. The first thing to do is go back and
They
sit on
start
that
towards
bench.
the bench, but before they can get there, 4 bums come along and occupy it.
Well, we got to think of
Fade out.
something else.
Fade in, long shot, New York Opera House. A shot of dusk, if it's possible to get one. The building is gray and hulking. Suddenly, the lights appear in every window, and the marquee shines its announcement. The camera trucks up to the marquee. In electric lights, therein flashes the announcement. Tonight, Rodolfo Lasapari in Il Trovatore. Carriage entrance, Opera House. There's a crush of approaching limousines, in all of them fashionably attired men and women, waiting to pull up the curbing discharge of opera goers. Silk and opera hats everywhere in evidence. Policemen directing the traffic jam, footmen and doormen opening the doors of the motors, helping the occupants dismount, giving carriage checks to the chauffeurs. Outside the stage door, Guili enters, in tails and cape. Inside the stage door, the doorman sorting telegrams as Guili enters.
Plenty for you tonight, Mr. Geely.
Thank you, Tim.
Rosa's dressing room. Rosa and her maid Marie. The maid sits weeping while Rosa in street clothes is doing the packing.
It's an outrage, Miss Rosa, an outrage!
Fortunes of war, Marie. Come on, no more weeping.
With this, she picks up the costume that she has been intending to wear that night. It's too much for her. She bursts into tears. The maid comforts her. Outside Guili's office, Guili, humming, opens the door with a key. Inside his office, he enters and turns on the light. Around his desk, mildly to his surprise, sits Groucho, Ricardo, Harpo, and Chico. Mr. Guili's liquor and cigars spread over the desk, and all 4 of them have apparently been having a very good time indeed.
What does this mean?
Ah, this is the man I want to see. Guili, these are the worst cigars I ever smoked.
The drinks are no good too, are they?
Harpo shrugs his shoulders and drains the bottle.
Get out of here, all of you, or I shall send for the police.
Just a minute, Geely. I'll tell you what we came for.
Make a bargain with you. You let Rosa sing, we give ourselves up. Go back to Italy.
Oh, you so willing to give yourself up? Are you?
If you let Rosa sing.
Well, I'm the director of the opera company, and Rosa does not sing. But remember, of your proposition, giving yourselves up, that rather appeals to me. Get my police headquarters, Sergeant Anderson.
Well, we'll have to talk it over with him some other time.
What do we do with them?
Harpo opens the door of a closet, whistles. Ricardo starts to drag Guili into the closet.
Now what about Lasapari?
I'll kill him.
Listen, we're not going to kill anybody till we see our lawyer. Ricardo, you go down and take care of Rosa.
We take care of the opera. Eh, Tommaso? You bet we will. We make Lasapari sorry he ever came over here.
And I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
What?
I'm going to go get dressed for the opera.
The waiting audience. Mrs. Claypool sitting in her box. An usher pushes the curtains. Groucho enters, resplendent in Guili's evening clothes, cape included. They fit Groucho perfectly.
Hello, Toots.
What are you doing here? This is Mr. Geely's box.
Well, he couldn't come, so he gave me his ticket, and he couldn't get dressed, so he gave me his clothes.
What?
The stage manager appears excitedly at the box.
Have you seen Mr. Geely?
Why, no. Isn't he backstage?
He's disappeared. We can't find him anywhere.
You didn't look in the right place.
But the speech! He was there to make a speech before the curtain went up.
Oh dear, what do we do?
Chord in the orchestra, a spotlight in the box.
That's it. Say something.
But I've never made a speech in my life.
I'll take care of it. Ladies and gentlemen.
Shot of a puzzled audience. Back to Groucho.
Well, I guess that takes in most of you. This is the opening of a new opera season, a season which has been made possible by the generous checks of Mrs. Claypool.
The applauding audience. Mrs. Claypool bowing. Back to Groucho.
When the curtain rises, I am sure the familiar strains of Verdi's music will come back to you tonight, and Mrs. Claypool's checks will probably come back in the morning.
Gauls returning to consciousness. Back to Groucho.
Tonight marks the American debut of Rodolfo Lasapari. Senor Lasapari comes from a very famous family. His mother was a well-known bass singer, and his father was the first man to stuff spaghetti with bicarbonate of soda, thus causing and curing indigestion at the same time.
While he's in his office, emerging from the closet, he dashes to the telephone.
Give me the police headquarters.
Back to Groucho.
And by way of welcoming Senor Lasapari, we are adding to the orchestra for tonight only two of the greatest musicians that ever lived. They are two men who have given their lives to music. In fact, I may say that these men are to music what Professor Einstein is to crapshooting. Senor Fiorello and Senor Tommaso.
Harpo and Chico enter the orchestra pit. Dressed as musicians, they bow. The applauding audience. The orchestra conductor, puzzled, glances at Groucho, but feels compelled to accept the situation. Back to Groucho.
And now on with the opera. Let joy be unconfined. Let there be dancing in the streets, drinking in the saloons, and necking in the parlor. All right, Signor Baravelli.
The orchestra conductor smiles in response. The audience applauding, orchestra leader acknowledging the applause, and the office.
All right, Mr. Henderson. I will expect you in 5 minutes and bring plenty of men.
Close-ups of Harpo and Chico. Chico pulls a pile of sheet music from under his coat. Harpo inserts the sheets in the music already in the racks of various players. We get a close-up of the score of the evening, clearly marked Il Trovatore. This is followed by close-ups of the music that Harpo is inserting. They are Take Me Out to the Ball Game and Waltz Me Around Again, Willie. The conductor raises his arms, knocks with baton for order. The box.
It's none of my business, but I think there's a woodpecker in that orchestra.
An enraged face of Gottlieb appears in the curtains of the box.
So, this is where you are.
I mean, that's where I was.
The next box, as Groucho passes through it, bound for still other boxes. A gentleman has an opera hat in his lap, and Groucho's foot crushes it as he passes. Back to Gottlieb in the Claypool box.
Mr. Gottlieb, what's happened to you?
That schweinhound.
He steps into the next box, but is immediately pushed back by a man whose hat is escaping Groucho, whose hat the escaping Groucho had stepped. Gottlieb almost lands on the floor. At that moment comes the sound of a sour note on the trombone. Gottlieb's attention is immediately caught, and he looks. Harpo with the trombone, quite oblivious, is adjusting the instrument. Orchestra conductor glaring at Harpo. Gottlieb glaring at Harpo, his eyes fairly standing out from his head as he recognizes him.
What are you doing to me, Mrs. Claypool? These people are yours. Baravelli!
Harpo in the trombone. He gives a tentative blow. Various objects come out of the trombone. Tennis balls, balloons, and so forth. Chico takes a gun and shoots the balloons. They burst in the air. Back to Gottlieb.
I'm ruined. I'm ruined.
Orchestra leader. Glaring at Harpo, he knocks again for order, raises an arm once more. A moment of silence. Then he gives the signal. The entire orchestra at once goes into Take Me Out to the Ball Game. At the end of a single phrase, the conductor knocks furiously for order. The various players peer unbelievably at their music. Gottlieb, running to get backstage, holds his head in his hands and the wrong music is played. Groucho on the balcony is sitting right in the front row next to a man with an ear trumpet.
You know, I think I heard this opera before at the World Series.
Ah, what's that?
Here, give me that. Now you can enjoy the opera.
The orchestra pit again. The leader raising his arms as before. The signal. The overture now begins. It continues for about 10 seconds, then the orchestra goes into I'm Just Wild About Harry. Close-up of Harpo, happily playing the jazz tune as the rest of the orchestra stops. The audience is reacting. Gottlieb backstage, peeping out between curtain and proscenium, trying frantically to attract the leader's attention. Behind him are massed veritable Italian of stage managers and assistants. Orchestra leader, misunderstanding Gottlieb's gesticulations, gesticulates right back at him. Harpo, still playing, deftly appears the hi-hat of the arriving patron, gets it just in the beat, plays a single note with the hat held over the trombone, and restores the hat to the owner. Groucho with the standees.
Well, that'll be a lesson to that fellow to check his hat.
Gottlieb in the corner of the curtain, frantically expiring. Orchestra leader raps again for silence. The overture resumes where it had left off. Harpo again. There's a little moment of clarinet solo, during which Harpo takes out a Jew's harp and strums an accompaniment. This is a bit of a duet between Chico and Harpo, which develops into something of a musical duel. Groucho again, the next time in the top galley, sitting atop the exit sign.
You know, if Hopper wasn't dead already, these two fellows down there could kill it.
Gottlieb, still behind the curtain, raises his hand to his head, makes more signs of the leader.
Shall I stop them? What will we do?
No, the performance will go on. Ring up the curtain. I'll take care of them.
The orchestra again. The overture mounts to a rousing climax, ends in a resounding note, but that doesn't stop Chico and Harpo. They continue to play more strenuously than ever. Chico pounds the piano with everything in his command. Harpo pulls out a sliding piece right out of the trombone, throws the trombone away, and takes the next man's violin. He saws it in half with one mighty stroke and gives the attention to the drums. The leader is trying frantically to hush them, signals to his men do something about it. These men respond nobly. They grab Chico and Harpo and throw them right out of the orchestra pit underneath the stairs. Entrance of Lasapari. Audience applauding. The stage. Lasapari comes down the footlights and gets all set for the first note. A moment of complete silence, then the orchestra starts. But when it starts, it is You're at the Top. Close-up of orchestra tearing the music sheets as Chico feigns innocence. Lasapari again as he goes into real aria. The box.
He asked me, they tore up the wrong music.
On Chico as conductor, he brings up the orchestra too loud while Lasapari is singing, indulges in an argument with piano player and so forth. Anvil chorus. Harpo cracking nuts and anvil descends. Henderson watching from rear of the theater. Sparks from the fire going into the air. Roof over the stage. Sparks going between the rotten boards. The boards begin slowly to kindle. Henderson watching, now suspicious. Groucho sees Henderson and notes his suspicion. We see Groucho leave the box. Henderson again, now convinced. He starts backstage. Groucho in the wings. In the tune of the Anvil chorus, Groucho gives instructions to Chico and Harpo.
Scram out of here, because I've just seen Henderson.
Chico in the pit sings the music.
I get you. Here. Take this, for I get to leave you.
Henderson passing through the little doors that separates the stage from the auditorium. Groucho, Chico, Harpo backstage.
In here.
Henderson again, crossing backstage, looking for the boys. He's approaching the balcony piece. In another second, he will find them. Just then, a noise behind him turns the other way for a second, and in that instant, a voice calls out, "Okay, on number 6, Bill." The balcony piece is suddenly hauled aloft with 3 boys in it. The balcony as it goes up.
Men's furnishings, please.
Henderson again, crossing the spot where the balcony had stood and still searching. The boys again, the balcony is right against the roof, so close the boys cannot even stand erect.
Hey, mighty pretty country around here.
Shot from overhead, showing Henderson walking around 200 feet below. The boys again.
Who's that down there?
His name is Henderson. Like to meet him?
No, that's why I'm up here.
Groucho and Chico continue to look down. Harpo looks up, sniffs a little, pulls a loose board a few inches, and discovers the raging furnace within. Brings a bag of marshmallows out of his pockets and breaks a splinter off of the roof board and sticks the marshmallow onto it. Sticks them in the fire. Shot from overhead, the opera proceeding. The boys again.
These are the best seats in the house. You can hardly hear anything.
Harpo brings the toasted marshmallow down from the fire and offers one to each.
Where you get these? It's hot. What's that? It's a fire.
So it is. Well, boys, we got a nice problem. Do you want to go down there and get arrested or stay up here and get burned?
A section of the roof about 20 feet long caves right in and falls to the stage, revealing the blazing fire underneath. The roar of the stage. As the burning boards fall, they land against the rear wall, fall back to the stage set, and cannot be seen by the audience. Instantly, there's excitement among the stage crew.
Turn in an alarm! Quick!
Okay, don't let me stop singing or there'll be a panic.
He dashes out. The three boys again. A rope representing safety is hanging about 8 feet away. They cannot reach it. Finally, Harpo stands on the edge of the balcony, his feet firmly clasped by Groucho and Chico. Keeping his body rigid, he bends forward as far as possible, just misses the rope, and in doing so almost falls, at the same time nearly pulling the other two to the floor. He tries again, but it's just an inch beyond his grip. He blows to start the rope to swing. Reverse the process, inhaling heavily as the rope swings towards him. By this trick, he finally gets it. Backstage, stagehands clearing away burning boards, another man working with the fire extinguisher, constantly, of course, against the music of the opera. The three boys again, all three descending by rope, but still high up. Then comes the high note from the soprano. The boys quickly scamper to a few feet, rather the fire than the soprano. Rosa's dressing room. Rosa and Ricardo rushing out of the room.
Something's the matter.
The boys descending the rope. Harpo, furthest down, suddenly comes to the end of the rope, about 50 feet from the ground. Harpo whistles a warning to the boys.
Well, we reached the end of our rope.
Backstage, just below the rope, Ricardo and Rosa are arriving there. Harpo whistles to attract their attention.
Ricardo, look.
Hang on, I can reach you.
Ricardo, be careful.
Ricardo rushes for the stairs. He must ascend 4 flights, and the steps are half afire as he dashes up them. On stage, the opera in progress, now having reached the convent scene, Act 2, Scene 2. While Louise or the Count is singing, Lasapari begins to smell smoke. He's uneasy. A smoky corridor lined with dressing rooms. Ricardo gropes his way through, knocking on doors and throwing them open. Girls in various stages of attire pour out of the room. They head for the stairs. The head of the stairs, as the girls reach it, a wall of fire suddenly flames up. They're compelled to turn back.
This way, follow me.
A 4th-tier balcony. This is just the same height as that at which the boys are hanging, but there are about 12 feet between the rope and the balcony. This is a semi-long shot showing both the balcony and the dangling boys. Ricardo and the girls, a dozen or more of them, rush out onto the balcony.
Get another piece of rope.
Rosa down below. She darts away. Shot of the audience, the vaguest unrest, a little sniffing. Backstage, Rosa rushing in with a coil of rope. A stagehand grabs it and throws it aloft to Harpo. Harpo deftly catches the rope, starts to tie the 2 ropes together. Fire engines reaching through the streets. The 3 boys, the new rope is now attached, and they swing at the end of it over the balcony and Ricardo. By this time, the balcony itself is burning, and so are the 3 balconies underneath it. A girl grasps the end of the rope, and the 3 boys lower her to the ground. The roof where the rope is attached, the moorings of the rope begin to burn away. The balcony again. Another girl is lowered to safety. There are now only 3 or 4 left in the balcony, others having been saved meanwhile. On the stage, as Louise is singing, Lasapari whispers to the Count. Lasapari whispers to the Count.
I don't like this. I'm gonna get out of here.
You stay right where you are.
The rope again. Harpo alone on the rope, swinging a final girl to safety. The roof where the rope is attached, the moorings burn away. Harpo falls, a fall of about 10 feet. He's bruised. They all rush to help him. On the stage, the opera is still proceeding. The Count is singing. Lasapari looks into the wings. Shot in the wings, a curl of smoke. Back to the scene.
Lisa, let's get out of here.
He takes her hand and they make their way cautiously towards the wings, circling around the back of the ensemble members. The audience, growing more restless. Mrs. Claypool's box disturbs. She leaves her box. Backstage, near the stage door, Lasapari and Louisa hurrying towards the exit, and Mrs. Claypool comes backstage.
Where are you going?
You think I'm gonna stay here and get burned to death?
On stage, the Count hits the final note, turns to where he expects Louisa and Lasapari to be standing. Of course, they are not there. The performance comes to a halt. The music stops. Backstage, Lasapari and Louisa, Mrs. Claypool, Groucho, and the stage manager.
Senor Lasapari, you cannot do this. If we drop the curtain, there will be a panic.
What do I care? Come on, Louisa.
You can't do this.
Shout of the audience. Fire engine bells are heard. That's enough for the audience, which starts to leave. The stage, as the disorganized company is about to desert, Groucho comes out onto the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen.
The audience, stopping in its tracks uncertainly, the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is absolutely no danger. The fire is in the next block.
Backstage, Lasapari, Louisa, Miss Claypool, and stage manager.
Get back on stage, you coward!
On stage.
So if you will kindly resume your seats, the performance will go ahead immediately.
Chico returning to his post as conductor.
That's all right, boys. Everybody's okay.
On stage.
While we're waiting for the performance to go ahead,
The audience, getting out of hand again. On stage.
I will tell you a couple of very funny stories.
Very loyal. Backstage, Lasapari and Louisa are no longer there. The stage manager is just picking himself up from the floor.
What'll I do? Pull down the curtain?
I don't know. Mr. Driftwood!
Groucho on stage.
And the Irishman says, "That was no lady, that was my wife."
The audience, now going up the aisles in considerable disorder. Groucho on stage.
See, maybe you didn't get the point. Look, he can explain it to you.
The audience again is still further disorder. Suddenly the sound of two beautiful voices is heard, clear and lovely. A few of the audience stop in their tracks, then more and more. On stage.
The performance is now going on.
Orchestra Pit. Chico conducting for dear life. The audience, panic has been stopped. Groucho again.
Remember, you have my personal guarantee that there is no danger. The fire is out and there is absolutely no danger. Thank you very much.
Backstage, Groucho, as he comes off stage, a fireman is playing a hose on a burning spot nearby.
Put a little right here, please. That's fine. I'll do the same for you sometime.
Foot of the stairs. Fireman squirting water up the stairs. Harpo appears at the foot of the stairs, starts up.
You can't go up there, it's dangerous.
On stage, the lovers sing. Wheelie's office. It's now smoke-filled. Harpo picks up the prostrate Wheelie. Shot of the audience, quite enraptured by the singing of Rosa and Ricardo. Mrs. Claypool in her box, also listening eagerly. The stairs, Harpo carrying Wheelie down, fighting his way through fire and smoke. Halfway up, he hears the plaintive whine. He looks down, close up of a dog. A moth-eaten mongrel is almost overcome by smoke. Back to Harpo. He drops the body of Wheelie and picks up the dog. Good choice, Harpo. Foot of the stairs. Harpo comes down, quickly hands the dog over to a fireman.
Say, is this what you risked your life for? Come back, you idiot. Well, I hope that's all now. Oh, now. That's all now.
Harpo snaps his fingers in recollection, darts up again. On stage, the lovers singing. The foot of the stairs, Harpo staggers down with Wheelie's body.
My boy, I want to congratulate you. If that was anybody but Wheelie, you'd be a hero.
Say, you got this fellow just in time.
On stage, the singing approaches a climax. Close-up of Chico smiling, conducting. On stage, the singing climaxes. The audience, terrific applause. Mrs. Claypool's box, Mrs. Claypool applauding and beaming. Backstage, Groucho and Harpo enjoying the singer's triumph.
How could a fellow with a voice that big ever get into my trunk?
A hand descends simultaneously on the shoulder of each. The camera pans to show Henderson.
All right, boys. Now I've got you, and as soon as this clam bake is over, I'm grabbing the other two.
Fade in. Harpo, Chico, Groucho immaculately dressed. Again on the steps of City Hall. Around them with smiling faces stand Henderson, Gottlieb, Mrs. Claypool, Ricardo, and Rose. Police and the distinguished citizens are again in attendance. The mayor is speaking.
And at the risk of their own lives, averted a panic and saved 3,000 people. And so, my friends, I take great pride in conferring honorary citizenship upon these magnificent heroes. We will first hear from Senor Masto.
Harpo, who is standing near Gottlieb, whips out a pair of scissors and quickly gestures and snips off Gottlieb's beard. At the same moment, Chico quickly smears a little glue over his chin. Harpo pastes the beard and takes a glass of water.
Well, this is where I came in. Goodbye, everybody.
Fade out. The end.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Wonderful,
That is
everyone.
amazing.
Thank you for watching, and good night.